Thank you, Senator. Senator Merkley.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and greetings, Secretary Rubio. And it was a pleasure to work with you when you were in your Senate capacity on a number of human rights issues related to China, Taiwan, Tibet, Hong Kong, and certainly the Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act, which I think is a standard and a strategy I hope will spread to other countries to reject goods made by slave labor in China. Today, however, I want to wrestle a bit with another what I consider to be a humanitarian tragedy, the conditions in Gaza. I very much supported Israel going after Hamas following October 7th, but we are now well over a year and a half into this, and there's a new phase of events, which I'll try to summarize. 6 months ago, Finance Minister Smotrich said Israel should thin the population through voluntary migration. He also used the term encouraged migration. These terms are considered a euphemism for forced displacement. And the strategies of forced migration are food denial, the demolition of homes so that there's no place to return to, and driving people from one area in the Gaza Strip south to the southern side. Then there is a new plan called Operation Gideon's Chariot, mass call-up of troops in Israel. And Netanyahu said a few days ago, he said, we're going to take over all the areas of the Gaza Strip. By the way, on that forced displacement or the demolition of homes, I want to put up a chart to accentuate the point. This is satellite images done by the New York Times that show before the war, the detailed homes, mass damage before the ceasefire, and then since the ceasefire, absolutely, the entire neighborhood turned to rubble. There's just basically nothing left that is habitable. So I wanted to just make the point that it's not some theory about the strategy. The strategy is being implemented and implemented very aggressively and effectively. But let me return to the issue of food denial. The Office for Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs estimated that in February, 2,000 children were admitted for treatment of acute malnutrition. I was thinking about the strips that are used. They're called MUAC strips, mid-upper arm circumference. It's basically a measure of the bicep. And I saw them I went to areas that were under starvation in Africa, and I saw these being used, and you'd see a child, and you would think this child is just maybe 2 years old, and they'd be 5 years old, and their arms as thin as toothpicks. And I was struck when a UN health representative returned and said, and I quote, "I've seen them in the wards," referring to the hospital wards, "a child of 5 years old, and I thought he was 2 and a half. So Ulcha said 2,000 children, acute malnutrition. That's a nice way of saying we're starving. In March, there were 36 children admitted for acute malnutrition. The denial of food the blockade began March 2nd, so the numbers are undoubtedly up much higher in April and now into May. The World Health Organization reported a couple days ago that 57 children had died from the effects of malnutrition. That blockade shows signs of being changed. Netanyahu has made some public comments. He said, "We will not stand by." Let's see. "We cannot reach a point of starvation for practical and diplomatic reasons." He went on to say that mass starvation is a red line that could cost Israel support from the U.S. He didn't say it was a humanitarian problem, but support from the U.S. And yesterday, 5 trucks went in, and there's a plan to get up to 100 trucks. But 5 trucks is 1% of the amount needed for daily food supplements, and 100 trucks is still only 20% in an area that's already extremely hungry. This has led Canada, France, and Britain to say we cannot stand by while the Netanyahu government pursues these egregious actions. The level of human suffering is intolerable. So I guess my question here is the U.S. is a very close ally to Israel, both in military, security support, certainly in economic support. Is the administration conveying to the Netanyahu government that encouraging migration through food denial is an unacceptable strategy?
Well, let me say I won't discuss, obviously, for many different reasons, what we share with our partners and allies. But I will walk you through some of the steps that you've rightly outlined, what has happened over the last...
Just not too long a speech, because I'm really trying to get where our administration is standing.
Well, I'm still trying to get the center out of me, so I still talk longer than I should,
Yeah, well,
so I'll be more brief.
I'm going to have to reclaim some time, but go ahead, try to keep it very...
Well, you want me to answer?
I do want you to answer, but hopefully answering the question is pretty simple. Does the U.S. consider this an acceptable strategy of encouraging migration?
Well, I would say that we were pleased and to see that aid is starting to flow in again. I understand your point that it's not in sufficient amounts, but we were pleased to see that decision was made. I understand another 100 trucks are behind that and maybe more in the next few days. I'll also tell you that I met in Rome 3 days ago with the World Food Program to walk through some of the ideas and plans they had for distribution on the ground. And ultimately, the answer here is for this to end, hopefully with the elimination of Hamas, because the people of Gaza deserve a more prosperous, peaceful future, which they'll never have as long as Hamas exists.
Well, thank you. That was brief and well done. Thank you. So then the second part of this is the systematic destruction of remaining homes as a way to make it impossible for people to stay in Gaza. Does the U.S. discourage that? Is it discouraging the Netanyahu government from continuing that strategy?
Well, we don't view that that's their strategy. We understand that they are targeting elements of Hamas, is what they have claimed and said to us and to the world, that they believe that they need to root out the remaining elements of Hamas, who, by the way, have been an impediment to multiple ceasefires that I know have been negotiated and even agreed upon by Hamas external and then vetoed by Hamas internal.
Is the U.S., it sounds like then, therefore, we're not concerned about that, or you characterize it differently. There has been reports of the administration working behind the scenes to develop a plan to help deport Gazans to Libya. Have you been involved in any discussions related to deporting people from Gaza, Palestinians in Gaza, to Libya?
No, there's no deportation. What we have talked to some nations about is if someone voluntarily and willingly says, I want to go somewhere else for some period of time because I'm sick, because my children need to go to school or what have you, are there countries in the region willing to accept them for some period of time? But those will be voluntary decisions by individuals.
Well, if they're voluntary decisions because there is no clean water, there is no food, and bombing is all around you, is that really a voluntary decision?
Well, ultimately, that's the point, right? And that is you don't want people trapped there. They may want to come back. They may want to live there in the future, but right now they can't. And if there's some nation willing to accept them in the interim period, yes, we've asked countries preliminarily whether they would be open to accepting people, not as a permanent situation, but as a bridge towards reconstruction.
Does that include Libya?
I'm not aware of Libya.
Thank you. I will just summarize since my time is up. I think the U.S. has a moral responsibility to fiercely convey to the Netanyahu government that using food as an instrument of war is unacceptable. It's a violation of international humanitarian law. It's mass punishment. We have now children who are dying, and while Netanyahu has said he doesn't want to see mass starvation, he's drawing the line at mass starvation, but we're seeing real starvation right now, and I think we owe it to our connection and our close relationship to Israel to powerfully convey the importance of not just 5 trucks a day like yesterday or 100 trucks a day, but enough food to end the starvation. Is that a policy you can get behind?
To ultimately rebuild and provide people a future in Gaza?
To get behind enough trucks to end the starvation.
Yeah, we've made that point. Look, I think ultimately, I don't think you would have seen the events of the last couple of days without our engagement, the engagement of others. Israel remains a strong ally. We're supportive. We understand why, for their security, Hamas cannot exist. We are also very happy to see that they have allowed aid to begin to flow, and we hope that that will continue.
Concluding comment, Mr. Chairman, thank you for your tolerance. It's an important topic. Netanyahu did say he was responding to remarks and pressure from American politicians. I assume that's meaning the administration, saying that we, America, cannot accept mass starvation, but I would encourage you to push not for 5 or 100 trucks, but enough food to end the fact that children are starving and adults are starving, innocents are starving. Our close relationship, we need to end it.
Senator McCormick.